I rolled over one Sunday morning to look at my wife of 5 years, Ashley. She stirred, smiled sleepily, and pulled me in for a soft kiss. She looked tired, and when I teased her about it, she laughed and said I had worn her out the night before. I joked that I was just trying to get her pregnant. She wrapped her arms around me and whispered that I'd get her there soon. I just needed to be patient. We stayed in bed for a while, talking like we always did. The conversation drifted, as it often did, to her job. Ashley had been pushing hard to land a promotion to regional sales manager, and she was laser-focused on proving herself. After a few minutes of work talk, I suggested she hop in the shower. Instead, she told me I should shower first. I agreed and said I'd run out to grab one of my favorite coffees after. But as I was heading out the door, I realized I didn't have my car keys. Rather than go all the way back upstairs, I remembered Ashley kept a spare key to my car in her purse for emergencies. I spotted her bag on the kitchen counter and figured I'd just grab the key quickly. As I was digging through the clutter inside, I found a small zippered pocket and unzipped it. That's when I saw them, birth control pills. My heart dropped. Ashley had told me she'd stopped taking them months ago. We'd agreed we were ready to start a family. But this pack looked mostly full, only a third of the pills were gone. I flipped it over and saw the prescription label. The date on it was recent. Like just a few weeks ago. She was still on birth control. I carefully put everything back the way I found it, and went upstairs to grab my keys without saying a word. On my way to pick up the coffee, my mind was racing. I couldn't understand why Ashley would lie about something so big. I never thought she was cheating. She was either at work or with me, and her closest friend was married to my best friend. I always felt like I knew where she was, except during work hours. Still, the disappointment hit me hard. It felt like she didn't actually want kids, despite pretending otherwise. I was just stunned. Around 4 p.m., Ashley noticed I'd been quiet all day. She nudged me, told me to get ready. We were late for dinner at our friends Mike and Jenna's. She also reminded me that Mike had asked for her help in the garage after dinner. When we got there, Mike pulled me aside. He could tell something was off and pressed me until I finally opened up. I told him what I'd found in Ashley's purse. He didn't seem shocked. Instead, we talked through a few possibilities. Then Mike said something that stuck with me. If you're so sure she's not cheating, then what's stopping you from finding out for sure? Hire a PI. Once you know for a fact she's not seeing someone else, you'll be in a better place to talk to her, really talk, and maybe figure out why she lied about the pills. By Monday morning, I'd made up my mind. I called a private investigator we sometimes use through my job for security matters. We talked it through, and based on what I told him, he said it didn't sound like Ashley was having an affair, but he agreed to look into it just to be sure. I asked him to check both her work hours and off time. I also mentioned I wanted to look into possible medical issues. Sometimes women deal with stuff they don't always talk about, even to their husbands. Over the next couple of weeks, the PI gave me periodic updates, but nothing stood out. Still, I couldn't bring myself to be intimate with Ashley. I tried to hide my emotions, but the distance between us started to show. Finally, on Saturday, Ashley called me out. She asked why I'd been pulling away from her. I tried to flip it back on her, accused her of not showing interest, and that led to our first real fight. A big one. Later, I vented to Mike. He warned me that if I didn't fix things soon, Ashley was going to sense that something was really wrong. So, I swallowed my pride and apologized. I told her I'd been scared. She looked confused, but now also worried. And for the first time, the thought crossed my mind, what if she actually was having an affair? As the days passed, I struggled to keep my head straight. Mike kept checking in, helping me stay grounded, helping me hang on to whatever hope I had left. By the middle of the third week, as Rose's 25th birthday approached, I wanted to do something memorable for her. I thought back to how Mike's wife, Jenna, had once thrown a hilarious half-50 birthday party, complete with a chopped-up walking cane and a bunch of gag gifts. I figured something like that could be fun, a celebration with a twist. That Thursday morning, I had a meeting scheduled with the private investigator. I figured it'd be quick, 30 minutes tops, but it ended up stretching over 2 hours. After he left, I just sat there, numb, until my phone rang. It was Mike. He knew I'd met with the PI and wanted to check in. We agreed to meet up. By the time he got to the bar, I was already on my third drink. He took one look at me and said, "This isn't good, is it?" The initial shock had worn off. What replaced it was something sharper, deeper, anger. I slid the folder across the table so he could see the PI's report. Mike flipped through the pages, reading the timestamps and looking at the photos. He paused and pointed at a disc tucked into the sleeve. "What's this?" "It's a video," I told him. "Of Ashley and her boss, together. The PI said the audio was just as important as the footage." Mike called Jenna and asked her to take Ashley out for a few hours, maybe to the mall or a movie, under the pretense of helping with her birthday. Jenna, always up for planning a surprise, agreed without hesitation. Then Mike and I watched the video. And it tore me up inside. The investigator was right. The dialogue hit harder than the visuals. It wasn't just a fling. Ashley wasn't in love. She wasn't cheating for romance. She was sleeping with her boss because she thought it would help her get the promotion she'd been chasing for months. We just sat there, not saying much. At one point, Mike quietly asked if I wanted another drink. I nodded. Eventually, I opened up. I told him that if Ashley had come to me and said she'd fallen for someone else, or that she needed more than what I was giving her, it would have hurt, sure. But I think I could have dealt with that. What I couldn't stomach was seeing her sell herself for a shot at a new job title. That wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation. Mike agreed. He said watching the video felt like seeing Ashley physically there, but emotionally hollow. "She chose her career over her marriage," he said. "And now she has to live with that choice." He handed me another drink and reminded me the girls would be home soon. Then he asked, "So, what are you going to do?" I looked up at him and said, "Her birthday's Monday. I'm throwing her a surprise party she'll never forget." I knew I had to move fast. I asked for his help, and maybe Jenna's too, if he was okay with it. He didn't hesitate. "Of course. Jenna won't want to hurt Ashley, but she'll help with the guest list and the setup." The next few days were a blur of planning. I kept pretending to be more drunk than I actually was whenever Ashley was around, just to keep her from asking too many questions. When the girls came home, I managed to avoid her without raising suspicion. The next day at work, I pulled aside a buddy in the shipping department who was great with video editing. I told him what I needed, pictures and footage arranged in a very specific way, and he said it'd be no problem. Later that afternoon, I called Jenna. I told her I was going to take her half 50 birthday idea but keep it a surprise for Ashley. I wanted to throw the party on Sunday at 3 p.m., and I needed her help getting Ashley out of the house for a few hours beforehand. Jenna was all in. She even started working on the guest list right away. Before we hung up, I told her I'd reach out to Ashley's parents next. The following day, I stopped by Ashley's work under the pretense of taking her to lunch. She said she couldn't, she had a meeting. That was fine. I wasn't really there for her. I was there for her boss. I told him I was planning a surprise party for Ashley's birthday, and that it'd mean a lot if he could come. I suggested he bring his wife and made sure to play it off like a friendly get-together. I asked him to park at the nearby elementary school so Ashley wouldn't notice the cars when she got home. I explained that a friend would walk the guests over from the school and assured him it'd be a fun time. I even told him I hoped he could make it. Later that night, I visited Ashley's parents and laid out the plan. Her mom pulled out old photos, baby pics, graduation snapshots, moments from our wedding. She was excited, unaware of what was coming. That evening, I went to my coworker's place, the guy from shipping. I showed him all the pictures and explained how I envisioned the night going. He listened quietly. Then he offered a new idea, something more powerful, something that would leave a lasting impression on everyone there. And I was all ears. I really liked the idea my tech-savvy buddy came up with, so I gave him the green light. He promised to have everything ready by Saturday. That Wednesday, I went to see a lawyer and officially started divorce proceedings, citing infidelity as the cause. During our meeting, the attorney also suggested going after Ashley's boss and her company. He was confident we could build a strong enough case to get compensation from her employer. By Friday night, I was sitting at my kitchen table across from Mike. I let out a long sigh and said, "Just when you think things can't get any worse, they do." Mike raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Well," I started, "I spent more time at the lawyer's office on Wednesday than I expected. By the time I left, I was so distracted by everything going on with Ashley. I completely forgot to go back to work and send out a bid on a major project." I took a breath before continuing. "We lost the contract. And today, they suspended me, 30 days, no pay. If my boss didn't know how screwed up my personal life was right now, I'd have been fired on the spot. But instead, he pulled me aside and told me to get away from all this. He's letting me use his timeshare in Mexico. Told me that if I want to keep my job, I'd better be on a flight there by Wednesday." Mike leaned back, surprised. "So, are you going?" "Yeah," I nodded. "I don't have a choice. I need this job." We moved on to planning the big event, the party. I explained every detail, how the photos would be displayed, how I imagined the night playing out, and what everyone's role would be. Mike's job would be to make sure Ashley's boss stayed put and watched the whole thing. I didn't want him slipping out before it all hit the fan. I also told Mike that the bartender we'd hired would actually be the one serving Ashley the divorce papers, and handing her boss some legal documents, too. When I got home later that night, Ashley was visibly upset. She demanded to know where I'd been. I told her I was with Mike. She rolled her eyes and said it wasn't a big deal, but then turned around and claimed it actually was, because she'd come home early to share some great news and I hadn't been there. Then she hit me with it. "You've been drinking too much. You've been distant. Are you seeing someone else?" Her words lit a fire in my chest. The nerve. I wanted to explode, to shout that she was the one who had betrayed us, not me. But Mike's voice echoed in my head, telling me to stay calm. So I took a breath and apologized. I told her no, there was no other woman. Then I asked about the good news. Ashley lit up. "I got the promotion," she said, practically bouncing. "Starting next month, I'll be the new regional sales manager." She threw her arms around me and squeezed me tight. Then she looked up and said, "Now we'll finally get that baby we've been wanting." I gently pushed her back, just enough to look her in the eye. "What do you mean?" I asked. She nestled herself back into my chest, smiling. "Everything's working out now. I got the job, and I know you're going to be the one to get me pregnant. I can just feel it." She looked up again and asked me if I still wanted to have a baby. She saw the tears in my eyes and thought they were happy tears, that I was emotional about the idea of finally becoming a father. But the truth? I was crying because I knew I was about to lose the only woman I'd ever truly loved. She took my hand and led me to the bedroom. We made love that night. Then again on Saturday morning, though that time, I was mostly just going through the motions. Later, while I was in the shower, she walked in looking worried. She asked if something was bothering me. Said she was surprised she hadn't been able to outlast me in bed lately, that I'd been different. I shrugged and told her maybe something was wrong. I reminded her I hadn't been myself lately. Too much drinking, too much stress. Then I changed the subject. "I've been wondering if maybe the problem's with me," I said. "You've been off the pill for a few months now, right? Maybe I should see a doctor. Get checked out." She grabbed my hands but didn't answer the question directly. Instead, she launched into a big pep talk, told me I was putting too much pressure on myself. That now she had her promotion, she'd be less stressed too. "I just know you're gonna get me pregnant soon," she said. "I can feel it." And all I could think was, yeah, I bet you can explain why you feel so confident. Saturday night, she wanted to be close again. And this time, I did too. I gave her everything I had left. But deep down, I think she could feel the difference. It wasn't love anymore. Not really. It was the last time we'd be together. Sunday morning came, and surprisingly, I wasn't as nervous as I expected to be. While Ashley was upstairs in the shower, I gave Jenna a quick call to confirm the plan for the day. I asked if she had everything figured out to get Ashley out of the house. Jenna cheerfully reassured me that she did, and added how proud she was of me for throwing this party for Ashley. She's never going to forget it, Jenna said. I almost laughed. Yeah, I thought. She really won't. When Ashley came downstairs, I asked her what her plans were for the day. Why? She asked suspiciously. I told her that Mike had called and needed help knocking out a few items on Jenna's honey-do list. She smiled and said that worked out great because Jenna had already invited her over for breakfast, and afterward, they were going to shop for new bedroom curtains. At exactly 3:10 that afternoon, Jenna walked Ashley back into the house. Everyone yelled, "Surprise!" Ashley was floored. She ran over and threw her arms around me, grinning from ear to ear. "I had no idea," she said, hugging me tightly. As she started scanning the crowd, I overheard her whisper to Jenna, "Did you invite my boss?" Jenna shook her head and said no. And just like that, I saw that flicker of panic cross Ashley's face again. With all the key players in place, the party got going. People were laughing, eating, drinking, a lot of drinking, honestly. I gave it almost 2 hours to make sure everyone had food and drinks, and once the energy started settling down, I gave Mike the signal. He helped gather everyone into the living room. Standing at the front of the room, I smiled and thanked everyone for coming. "Before we open gifts and read cards," I said, "let's take a little walk down memory lane." I figured, what better way to kick off the first half of Ashley's 25th birthday than to show off a few highlights. I nodded toward Ashley's parents, her cousin, and her boss, sitting there with his wife, completely unaware of what was coming. Once everyone was seated and the lights were dimmed, I connected my laptop to the TV and said, "All right. Here we go." The first photo popped up, baby Ashley, 2 months old, lying on a bed with no clothes on. The room erupted in laughter and playful jeers. I made a few funny comments about the spot on her blanket, and Ashley turned beet red. The slideshow continued, childhood pics, awkward grade school moments, high school dances. I threw in jokes here and there, getting laughs from the crowd. Her mom chimed in once or twice, which only added to the fun. Then came the college photos. I pointed out how driven and ambitious Ashley had always been. One shot even captured her standing next to me, our early days. Next came our wedding photo. More laughter, some teasing about my long hair back then. Then the pictures shifted to her professional life, her office, her achievements, her awards. And then, a photo from the company holiday party. Ashley was seated at a round table. Her boss sat beside her. His wife was on the other side. Another coworker flanked Ashley's left. I was nowhere in the frame. Ashley's smile faltered. So did her boss's. They glanced at each other. I saw it. Everyone saw it. "I hope," I said calmly, "that Ashley's boss recognizes all the dedication and effort she's put into her role. She's worked incredibly hard for that regional sales manager position." Ashley's eyes went wide. She looked like she couldn't breathe. Then, the video began. At first, more photos, scenes of her working late, shaking hands at events. But then the screen shifted. A video clip faded in. A bed. Ashley's voice, off camera, saying, "This is the last time, we agreed." Then, a full shot of Ashley in bed. Her boss between her legs. Gasps. Silence. Then the video continued. He whispered to her, "If you want that promotion, you know what to do." Some guests stood. A few backed out of the room. The next scene showed Ashley on her hands and knees, her boss gripping her hips, mid-act. A few more seconds rolled by. He said something about performance and vice president status. 15 seconds in, chaos erupted. Ashley screamed, "Turn it off! Turn it off!" Tears were pouring down her face. "I'm sorry! I'm so sorry!" Her boss tried to make a run for it, but Mike blocked him. When the guy shoved Mike, he caught a solid right hook to the jaw and dropped back into his chair, stunned. Mike shouted his name, and when the idiot responded, our hired bartender stepped up and slapped a manila envelope onto his lap, legal papers. While that was happening, Jenna tried to console Ashley, who was now sobbing uncontrollably, but she didn't see the boss's wife charging at her from the side. She grabbed Jenna by the hair and yanked her backward onto the couch. As she fell, Jenna's hand flailed and accidentally yanked Ashley's arm. Ashley spun around just in time to catch a brutal right hook across the cheek. She dropped like a stone, hitting the floor hard. Jenna jumped up, yelling and trying to fight back. Mike stepped in just in time to catch her before she hit the floor again. I rushed forward, Ashley on the ground, Mike holding Jenna, the room in full-blown meltdown. And that was just the beginning. I honestly thought the worst was behind us. But then Ashley's boss's wife turned her fury back toward Ashley and started hurling insults. Ashley, still on her hands and knees, reached toward the ottoman, trying to push herself up. She was shaky, clearly still dazed from the punch. Her back was turned, legs apart as she struggled to regain balance. Just as I reached out to help her up, I caught sight of the boss's wife out of the corner of my eye. She took a full step forward. And then, like an NFL punter going for a 50-yard field goal, she launched her foot straight into Ashley's crotch. My hand was on Ashley's arm when the impact hit. I felt it go through her entire body. She shot 2 feet into the air and landed hard on the ottoman, bounced off, then crumpled to the floor with a gut-wrenching scream, the loudest I'd ever heard from her. She hit the carpet, curled in on herself, knees pulled to her chest, both hands between her legs, sobbing uncontrollably. Bill didn't hesitate. He grabbed the boss's wife by the back of the neck and dragged her toward the door. Her husband trailed behind, stunned. As Bill shoved them both out, the woman shrieked, "Well, that sure ain't gonna earn her a promotion now." Jenna rushed to Ashley's side, kneeling down and yelling for me to back up. I didn't listen. I moved closer and tried to reassure Ashley, telling her that I never wanted any of this to happen, not like this. But she was in so much pain, I don't think she even heard me. Then I saw it. Blood. Seeping through her light cotton pants. My stomach dropped. I grabbed Jenna's arm and pointed. She looked down and gasped, then immediately ordered me to call 911. The ambulance got there quickly. I didn't ride with Ashley. I followed behind in my car, numb and shaken. I had planned for a dramatic, emotional confrontation, not this. Not blood, not emergency surgery. At the hospital, Bill, Jenna, and I waited together in the emergency room. After what felt like forever, a doctor came out and introduced himself. He told us Ashley was going into surgery as soon as the specialist arrived. He asked what had happened, and I told him the truth. She'd been kicked in the groin by another woman. He asked a few more questions and then gently asked if I wanted to see her. I said no. A few hours later, the surgeon came out with an update. He looked stunned, said he'd never seen an injury quite like this. The impact had hit Ashley right at the base of her clitoral area, and the tissue had torn in 3 directions due to the sheer force of the blow. They were able to repair the damage, but he said they were worried about her clitoral nerve. The love button, he called it, trying to be gentle. If it doesn't heal properly, he said, it could affect her ability to experience sexual pleasure. He went on to explain that the area plays a big role in arousal and reaching orgasm. If the nerve damage was too severe, Ashley might never experience that kind of pleasure again. He told us she'd be in recovery for a couple of hours and that I could visit her afterward. I didn't stay. I left the hospital not long after. Bill stayed behind with Jenna. I grabbed a quick meal, we talked a little, then I went home, alone. Monday morning around 10, Jenna called to ask when I planned to visit Ashley. I told her I wasn't sure. Maybe Tuesday. She didn't like that answer. Pressed me. I ended up hanging up and turning off my phone. On Tuesday, just after lunch, I finally went to see her. I walked into her hospital room, and Jenna gave me a hard look as I approached the bed. Ashley looked tired, fragile, but alert. Before she could say anything, I started talking. I told her I wanted everyone to know the truth, that it was her, not me, who destroyed our marriage. That she'd lied about going off birth control. That she cheated. I admitted that yes, I wanted her to feel humiliated. I wanted people to see her for who she'd become. But what I didn't want, what I never wanted, was for her to be physically hurt. I told her I was furious. Heartbroken. But the idea of her actually getting hurt like this, that had never been the plan. Tears streamed down Ashley's face. I turned to leave. Then I felt her hand wrap around mine. "Please don't go," she whispered, her voice shaky. "I believe you." I reassured Ashley that I never wanted her to be physically hurt. She begged me to stay, to talk things out, but I told her I couldn't. I explained how her betrayal had thrown my entire world into chaos. My mind was a mess. My heart even worse. And that mental fog had led to a major screw-up at work. I told her how the upper management wanted to fire me, but my boss, who knew about everything going on in my marriage, stepped in and saved my job. Still, I wasn't off the hook. I'd been suspended for 30 days without pay. "I've got a month," I told her, "to figure things out. To fix my head." My boss had offered me his timeshare in Mexico, and even allowed me to cash in 3 weeks of unused vacation. It was the break I needed, whether I wanted it or not. Jenna, who had been sitting nearby, suddenly chimed in. "You can't leave her like this," she said, panicked. "She needs you." I turned to Jenna and said calmly but firmly, "I can leave. I have to leave. I can't risk losing my job." Then I looked at Ashley and added, "And I learned from the best. You taught me how to put work before love." Ashley started to speak, apologizing again, but I held up a hand. "There's one more thing," I said. "I'm not done with your boss. I promise you, he's going to feel the consequences of what he's done. And I'm telling you this not to scare you, but because I think he'll throw you under the bus to protect himself." I told her the house had been cleaned up. No trace of the party remained. On the kitchen table, I'd left all the materials from the PI and the divorce papers. When I mentioned the divorce, Ashley squeezed my hand so tight I nearly couldn't pull it free. Her face crumpled again as fresh tears fell. "I didn't leave that stuff to hurt you," I said. "If anything, you might be able to use it to protect yourself. I hope you get a good lawyer." Then I stepped back. "I've got a flight to catch." Ashley refused to let go. "Please," she begged, "don't sign the papers yet. Let's talk. Really talk. When you get back?" I shook my head slowly. "You still don't get it. You don't control this anymore. You lost that right." I pulled my hand from hers. "You had your chance. And you blew it." As I walked toward the door, Ashley cried out again. "Please wait." I stopped. She looked at me, tears soaking her cheeks. "I love you. More than anything. Please, will you meet with me when you get back?" I took a breath. "Ashley, right now, it hurts too much just being in this room with you. Maybe when I come back, I'll feel differently. But right now?" The answer is no. Mike was already outside the hospital, waiting to take me to the airport. The ride was mostly quiet. He already knew most of what had happened, and we'd gone over the plan concerning Ashley's boss. I asked Mike to keep me updated, on both the boss and Ashley herself. He raised an eyebrow. "You really want updates on her?" I gave a short laugh. "I still love her, Mike. But that doesn't mean I'll let her walk all over me." Second story. I'm 32, currently going through a divorce from my 33-year-old wife after finding out that my 5-year-old son isn't actually mine. This all started a couple of weeks ago. Her sister, of all people, was over visiting, talking about the upcoming birth of her first child. I don't know what triggered it, but during that conversation she let something slip. Apparently, 6 years ago, my wife had a drunken one-night stand with her best friend. She admitted it back then, apparently full of regret, but never told me. Her sister only mentioned it in passing, like I was supposed to already know. I didn't. The moment she left, I ordered a paternity test. I was terrified. A week later, the results came back. The boy I'd raised for 5 years wasn't biologically mine. After that, something shifted in me. I started looking at him differently. Not as a son, but like a neighbor kid I'd spent too much time around. I confronted my wife one night after he'd gone to sleep. She asked how I found out. I told her it didn't matter, though I'm sure she figured out it was her sister. I filed for divorce the next day. She was devastated. Swore that nothing else had happened in the years since. Said she'd been faithful, body and soul. I didn't insult her. I didn't scream. I kept calm, not wanting to complicate the divorce proceedings. She blamed the alcohol. Said it was a stupid mistake. She refused to own it, not really. Then, as if that wasn't enough, she said she was going to fight for full custody. That's when I snapped. I don't care about anything that's not biologically mine. I told her coldly. Keep the kid. I'm keeping the dogs. She tried to argue, said we could co-parent. Said I was still his real dad. I wasn't trying to hear it. When she insisted I was still our son's father, I lost it. I yelled. Told her to leave, and to take her son with her. I called him a fool in my anger, even though deep down, I knew he was just a child caught in something far beyond his control. It's been a week since that day. I'm still living at our house, the one that's in my name, a gift from my parents. She took the boy and went to stay with her folks. She hasn't reached out since. My parents support me completely. My dad told me he was proud I didn't stick around for a child who wasn't mine by blood. It sounds harsh, but that's how he sees it. I've been seeing a therapist 3 times a week. He keeps telling me that letting go of what causes you pain is the first step toward healing. The emotional fallout is still brutal. Writing this post was actually my younger brother's idea. He thought it might help get some of it off my chest. As for how the truth came out, my sister-in-law admitted everything. Guilt had been eating her up for years, especially after seeing how happy I was with my son. She finally broke down during a visit, crying and telling me what had happened during a moment of weakness. I feel a deep hatred toward my wife. And the pain and resentment I feel toward the boy. It's confusing and hard to admit. But I'm determined to move forward. Thankfully, our finances and properties are separate, so the divorce process should go relatively smoothly. And if she tries to come after me for child support, I have legal proof that the child isn't biologically mine. My lawyer says that should be enough to protect me. My therapist has strongly advised against any contact with either of them. He says focusing on my own well-being is what matters most now. The child isn't my responsibility anymore. Accepting that, as painful as it is part of the process. Not a huge update, but here's what's happened since. 3 days after my last post, my ex showed up at the house and asked to come in. I stepped outside and told her straight up, she wasn't coming into the house while I was there. If she had anything to say, she could say it at the door. She practically begged me to take her son back. She admitted she deserved being cut off, said it was her cross to bear, but begged me to reconsider because raising him alone would derail her dream of becoming a notary. She's 2 years out from applying for a judiciary vacancy, something she's been working toward for a long time. I stayed calm. Told her my therapist had recommended complete detachment, no contact. I asked her to leave before I lost my composure. I told her I still had love for the child, but I wasn't going to take out my pain on him. He didn't ask for any of this. I said it with conviction, even though I didn't raise my voice. We were on the street, and she's always cared a lot about what others think. As she turned to leave, she asked one last thing, if she could see the dogs. I said no. I figured it would just confuse them, make them excited, and then rip that away again. They need to get used to her being gone. 2 days later, she called me after receiving the divorce papers. My mistake was picking up. She yelled for 30 minutes straight. I calmly told her to take any questions to my civil lawyer, then blocked her number. She hasn't called or shown up since. That same evening, I texted a friend from my master's program, someone I hadn't seen in a while, and asked if she wanted to go out. She said yes. We've been seeing each other since. Last Friday, I asked her if she wanted to make it official, be a couple. She said yes. She's stayed over a few nights already. Loves the dogs. They love her too. That's a big deal for me. I couldn't be with someone who didn't accept my pets, their family. She's been incredibly understanding. She knows all the drama I've been through and respects my decision to stay away from my ex and the boy. When she asked if I'd ever reconnect with him, I told her, maybe. Maybe when he's old enough to understand the choices I made. But I don't plan for that to be part of my life moving forward. She nodded. Said she was glad I was putting myself first. Well, it's official. I'm divorced. In my country, there's a process known as a quick divorce. It skips the court system if there are no shared assets, no joint accounts, and, crucially, no legal children involved. The only complication, of course, was the child. But the paternity test settled that. The child isn't mine, and my name was successfully removed from the birth certificate. He now carries both of his mother's last names. To say the divorce process was tough is putting it mildly. My ex tried to use the boy's emotional state as leverage. Tried to guilt me into coming back. But every time I felt doubt creeping in, I reminded myself of everything that happened. And honestly, I wouldn't have gotten through it without the woman I'm seeing now. She's been a rock, supportive, patient, and steady. I'm still healing. Still figuring things out. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm finally on the right path. Hearing from her that none of this was my fault helped me more than I expected. It didn't fix everything, but it took some weight off. After several conversations through our lawyers, I offered to pay for half of a nanny's salary for her son, just enough support to help her stabilize her life again. Thankfully, she agreed and said she'd handle all other expenses on her own. I made it crystal clear that I wasn't going to be a father to her child, and she accepted that. Adjusting to single motherhood has been a huge wake-up call for her. She's always been laser-focused on her career, but juggling both worlds now seems to have really shaken her. Out of curiosity, I asked if she talked to the boy's biological father. She admitted she had. Apparently, he even moved in with them, at her parents' house, for about 2 weeks. But it didn't work. They had nothing in common. Constant arguments. She had to break up fights between them before he finally packed his bags and left. She was a little sad, but honestly, she's got a good job, looks that turn heads, and now a full year with nanny support. She'll have time to find someone who's actually right, maybe even a stepdad for her kid. As for me, I'm not ready to talk to the boy. Maybe when he's older. Maybe when he's a teenager and can understand why I made the decisions I did. If he doesn't want to talk to me, then I'll understand. I wouldn't blame him. At one point, while we were discussing him, she suddenly shifted, expressing anger toward me for having a new girlfriend. She hated it. And she said it right in front of my current partner. That crossed a line. I had to step in and calm things down. We were already divorced. She had signed the papers. I'd helped her out. But she still couldn't stomach the fact that I was moving on. Through it all, I stayed calm. Compassionate, even. That's always stung her. She's proud, built her image around doing everything by merit. So when she saw that calm expression on my face, I could see it enraged her. I told her, "This is the same look I've always had. If you think I'm trying to mock you, that's not my problem." What mattered most? She signed. And I was finally free to move on. For the next year, I'll be covering half the cost of a nanny, basically the equivalent of minimum wage. To me, it's a small price to pay for peace. Yeah, I still harbor resentment. but not enough to lash out or wish her harm. She's got enough on her plate. I'm beyond grateful for my current partner. She stood by me through all of this. I've told her more than once that she didn't need to go through this mess with me, that she could walk away without guilt. But she won't. She says my burdens are hers too, and she's here to carry them with me. She's helped me breathe again. She also understands that I'm in no rush to marry again, maybe not this year, maybe not even the next. And she respects that. That kind of support is rare. At least now, this chapter of my life is finally closing, and thankfully, without any long-term damage to me. Third story. We were married for 16 years, together for 20. Parents to 3 amazing kids. And then, I found out about the affair. It started when I hacked into her phone and found the messages. She was sleeping with a coworker. After I confronted her, she said it was over. She wanted to fix our marriage. But it was never the same. We filed for divorce in October 2018. She moved out the following month. And not even a week later, she went right back to him, her affair partner. The divorce was finalized in December 2019. And she stayed with him all the way until last week. That's when she called me, in tears. She asked if I could take the kids overnight. I asked what was going on. She hesitated, then said, "Karma hit me hard." Alarm bells went off. Turns out she had gone through his phone while he was in the shower. Found dozens of explicit messages on Facebook, just like how I discovered her cheating years ago. She's 39 now. He's 52. And the new woman he's been talking to? A married 28-year-old. I won't lie, my first instinct was to celebrate. This guy had been a snake from the beginning. I told her that back then. Warned her. But as I listened to her on the phone, crying broken, I could tell she really did love him. And strangely, a part of me felt sorry for her. That night, she apologized more than she ever had, not just for this, but for everything she put me through. For the pain. For the betrayal. For tearing our family apart. Ironic, isn't it? It took her being cheated on to finally understand what she did to me. I took her apologies with a grain of salt. Truth is, I've moved on. I've been happy with someone else for the past 6 months, and life's been good. There was almost a second round of cheating with her affair partner. Let's just call him AP. My ex caught him before they could meet up, but only because she now has total control over his phone. She monitors his messages, apps, everything. Sounds like hell to me. Their relationship? It's bizarre. Officially, they're not together, according to her. Both of their Facebook profiles say single. Yet she still wears the engagement ring he gave her, sometimes. And unlike how she refused to return the $112,000 wedding ring I gave her, I get the sense she'd give this one back without much hesitation. She still stays at his apartment now and then, but swears they're just hanging out as friends. Yeah, because that's totally normal, spending the night at your ex's place, sleeping in their bed, just chilling. She honestly thinks people buy this act. It's almost comical. Meanwhile, she had to quit her job. There were too many rumors flying around about her overly close relationship with the plant manager. Lunch dates, long breaks, Harley rides. He's married with 3 kids, and people started talking. Things got messy fast. Even now, he still visits her. Takes her on rides. Movies. Whatever. Recently, our teenage son caught her kissing someone in the driveway. He didn't recognize the guy, so he called me asking who it was. I told him. Asked your mom. And pretended I didn't know anything. The kid thought she and AP were still a thing, probably because AP had been over the day before grilling food and mowing her lawn. And then, boom, new guy. She wouldn't tell me where she met this one, but apparently, they'd known each other from a previous job. Went on a couple dates. She didn't seem into him. He was the kind of guy who bragged about wanting to hook up with all her friends and coworkers back in the day. Classy. The other day we were talking about retirement. I told her my plan. In 6 years, once the kids are grown and child support's done, I'm heading south. Sunshine, sand, and semi-retirement. She hit me with this sob story, how she had to raise all the kids alone while I built my business, and how she'll probably work till she dies, because she'll never be able to retire. That couldn't be further from the truth. I put in just as much time, housework, and effort as she did. Honestly, during some years I did more. Especially when she was going out 4 or 5 nights a week, partying with friends while I stayed home with the kids. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "You chose to leave me for your affair partner. This is the life you picked." Her face? Absolutely priceless. Like she just realized her retirement plan, walked out the door the day she cheated. Now, she's got $14,000 in her 401k. She's in her early 40s. Even if she sticks with or goes back to AP, he's got nothing. No savings. No assets. No future. Not even a decent window to throw his dreams out of. So yeah, there's a bit of poetic justice in all of it. If you're someone out there dealing with divorce or staring one in the face, here's what I'll leave you with. From October 2018 to December 2019, my world was torn apart. I was broken. Lost. But fast forward a few years, I'm happier than I've ever been. I've got real plans. A vision. I'm counting down the days until I can retire early and enjoy a beach somewhere. My bond with my kids? Stronger than ever. When life feels dark and hopeless, just keep walking forward. Don't lie. Don't manipulate. Don't drag your kids into the mess. Be a good person, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. And remember, the farther you can walk from the darkness, the brighter life becomes. Stay strong, my friends. You've got this.